O Lord of hosts, be with us, for we have none other help in times of adversity but thee. O Lord of hosts, have mercy on us.
Now, in regards to these quotes that I want to read you guys, the first one, here we go. The first one reads, this is Sam Keane, and this is going to direct us in our mini quotes that we're getting ready to run through here. And the first one reads, there are two questions a man must ask himself. The first is, where am I going? And the second is, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you are in trouble. And so I thought this was a great quote because it is important for a man to decide where he is going. You know, much of us that are here, we have come to that same conclusion. Some of us don't know where we're going, maybe in regards to our careers, or in regards to our professions, this or that. But we know that where we want to go in regards to our soteriology, in regards to our salvation, this or that. So a lot of us have got here through knowing where we want to go in regards to our religion and our spirituality. But who will go with you, or who will go with me? This has to be a secondary question, because if you are with the wrong people, they're going to take you where they're going. And I love, there's like a Tyler Childers song, I think it's All Yearn, that he talks about how he made up his mind, his direction before he met the love of his life. And I think for a lot of us, we need to do that. We have to commit in the direction in which we are going to move as individuals, as men, and then allow those people who also want to move in that direction to find us and work together. So I like that one, and that was the first quote that I wanted to share. Second one is... Second one reads, this is from Douglas Gerald, and it reads, the superior man is he who develops in harmonious proportions his moral, intellectual, and physical nature. This should be the end at which men of all classes should aim, and it is this only which constitutes real greatness. Real greatness. So a man must be working on his moral, intellectual, and physical nature. And I do agree with the moral being the first of importance there. So even with an Orthodox theology, the cleansing of one's nous begins with the adoption of a more moral life in the way in which you engage with the world. So do agree with this one. I thought this was a great quote. And again, important for all of us to recognize what we need to work on: our morality, our mind, and our bodies. Number 3 says, masculinity is not something given to you, but something you gain, and you gain it by winning small battles with honor. Norman Mailer. And I love this quote, and it's showing a few guys playing old-timey football, but that's why men love sports, because men can attain the respect and honor from other men through honorable activity that can be presented through sports. Excellence and competency through sports can be that avenue. But this winning of small battles to attain honor, I think, is very important for us. Most men aren't thinking in this way. We need to think in this way. And the winning small battles insinuates competition. And that's another thing you see, competition going out the window, because, again, it's too masculine, it's too toxic, this or that. So within this quote, we see that masculinity, as I've talked about before, it's tied to competency, it's tied to competition, and that, again, you win small battles with honor. And this is something that we all should set forth to try to do. So great quote there. I love that. Number 4 is, show me the man you honor, and I will know what kind of a man you are. For it shows me what your ideal of manhood is and what kind of a man you long to be. Thomas Carlyle. So I do love this. Ultimately, us as Christians, that our ultimate icon is Christ, which is great and beneficial for us, right? But even the men in the world who we respect, luckily, again, our church has saints. This is another way in which we can idolize not in a heretical way, but venerate and respect and honor human men who have gone before us and have lived more righteous lives. So again, as a Catholic or an Orthodox, at least you have saints. But I do generally really like this quote because I think it's hinting at something very true. What type of man do you look up to, right? Are you looking up to Perez Hilton? Or are you looking up to, C.S. Lewis or something like that? Not again that you need to look up to C.S. Lewis necessarily, but just trying to draw a dichotomy there. So good quote. Number 5 reads, in the modern techno-industrial culture, it is possible to proceed from infancy into senility without ever knowing manhood. And I think this is true for many people. And if we really want to sort of get down to the nitty gritty and even say, maybe a little bit more controversial, I think this is one of the big distinctions between what we would call, or what's commonly called the greatest generation, the World War II generation, and the baby boomers, is the baby boomers grew up in front of these televisions. And so when we look at the feminization of our society, and we tend to point at the boomers themselves and the ways in which they've sort of allowed our society to rot or degrade in different ways, can we not see the sort of feminization that has occurred, that they've moved from a sense of infancy to senility without knowing manhood? I think that there's something there. I think that there's an interesting lesson to be learned in regard to those things. So, and this is also why being too wrapped up in culture, people try to then find themselves in other people because they're living lives of insignificance. Not that all of us need to be famous or something. That's not what makes you insignificant. The insignificance is the way in which you're actually engaging in your daily activity is what makes you insignificant. So by taking on more responsibility, by just being better men, I think we can move in the opposite direction of this. Turn off the TV. And this also highlights the need for initiation rites, right? We live in a culture that there is no initiation process. There is no pubescent rite between pre-puberty to post-puberty. When does a man become a man? When is a man supposed to take on those masculine characteristics? Because we live in a feminized, degenerate, deformed society, there is no point. So we see adolescence being extended indefinitely into adulthood. Number 6, Theodore Roosevelt quote. Old Teddy says, we need the iron qualities that go with true manhood. We need the positive virtues of resolution, of courage, of indomitable will, of power to do without shirking the rough work that must always be done. So I really like this. Very straightforward quote, just talking about men filling the void that obviously is, or really filling the role, I should say. I think it's becoming more of a void in our society, but the role that we've always had, indomitable will, courage. We've already talked about that as a biblical value related to masculinity. Virtues of resolution, the power to do without shirking, not again, that's St. George slaying the dragon. That is, any myth of taking on the beast, of taking on the formidable opponent that seems so unlikely that you'll conquer. Yet you stand there knowing it's most likely you won't succeed, but you're going to fight. That is masculinity. That is courage. That is what men respect in other men. That is what we can all embody in ourselves. Number 7 reads, to have known one good old man, one man who, through the chances and mischances of a long life, has carried his heart in his hand like a palm branch, waving all discords into peace, helps our faith in God, in ourselves, and in each other more than many sermons. And I do agree with this. And again, it's like encountering real. Again, obviously, this is rooted within a Protestant context. So you've already heard my critiques, along with Dyer's critiques of the over-rationalism and the over-rationalistic components of Protestant theology, but which then highlights with more than many sermons. I mean, a sermon is a sort of intellectual process, giving and receiving. So actually meeting holy people, a holy man, an old righteous man does way more. And I totally agree with that. And so again, who do we want to be when we're 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years old? What are people going to think about us? And what kind of life are we going to have lived? Number 8, the greatest thing a man can possibly do in this world is to make the most possible out of the stuff that has been given to him. This is success, and there is no other. It is not a question of what someone else can do or become, which every youth should ask himself, but what can I do? How can I develop myself into the grandest possible manhood? That is a good one. And so that is, I'm not familiar with this individual, Orson Swett Marden. I'm not familiar with him, but I love that quote. And that is exactly what we should all ask ourselves. We're all, as I said earlier, in regards to seasons, we are all in different seasons of our lives. Some of us have been on this path for a while. Some of us are just now joining. Some of us have been on and off. We're all in different places. We're all in what is called a different season of life. And so wherever we're at with whatever we have, a man is using what's at his disposal to make the best of himself. All of us should be doing that. Number 9, first, find the man in yourself if you will inspire manliness in others. Agreed. And that is by Amos Branson Alcott. First, find the man in yourself if you will inspire manliness in others. Be the icon unto your brothers. Number 10, one cannot always be a hero, but one can always be a man. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. That is not Wolfgang von Goethe right there, Johann. But it is a gentleman with his sons. And I aspire to that. I love the way the man's dressed. We see the formality of everything, even the formality of the way his sons dress. But we can't always be a hero, but we can always be a man. I love that. And I just aspire to being a father of sons one day. And then to have sons, if you can imagine, sons that then attain the respect and honor of other men, and you helped form that individual. I don't imagine there can be much more rewarding than that. Number 11, Robert Jordan says, there is one value above all others for being a man. Whatever comes, face it on your feet. And I absolutely love that. And I couldn't agree more. Face it on your feet. That a man must stand up. Not just for what he believes in, that is true, but whatever comes. And so, it's not a man when we see what's happening in our culture and people are talking, oh, I better leave the U.S. or this or that. Like, I get why you'd want to do that. I get why that's an option for some people, but also, it takes real men who turn around and stand and face whatever it is that they have to battle, whatever it is they have to fight, whatever it is, face it on your feet. I love this quote. Number 12, C.S. Lewis. I did a whole stream called Stop Bitchin', Start Benchin'. Using this quote, C.S. Lewis has a quote that says, we make men without chests and expect them virtue and enterprise. We laugh at honor and are shocked to find traitors in our midst. We castrate and bid the gildings be fruitful. And this is so true. We talked about the sort of symbolism of a chest. Obviously, he's not telling everybody to be a bodybuilder, but it has to do with a sense of masculinity, a sense of presence in the world, honor. We've talked about as that uncreated energy that's essential. That honor is what is going to, in a way, transcend our own life. We'll only live here physically for so long, but depending on what we do and how we act and how we treat others, the respect, the honor, the idea of who we are can outlive us. And so honor is important. And yet at the same time, we live in a society that's continually castrating men. And that is absolutely the case. And so I couldn't think of a much better quote to really kind of encapsulate the modern world than this one by C.S. Lewis. I love this quote. Next one, 13, is no man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself. Seneca, the famous Stoic philosopher, Seneca. And I couldn't agree more with this, is that, again, part of being a man is part of finding that competency, so then you can attain that respect and honor from others. But to be competent means you have to prove yourself. And you have to be given permission to prove oneself. And so essential for our own manhood, essential for our own masculinity, is making sure that we face the adversity necessary to prove ourselves, or we'll never be fulfilled. And this is also, when you think about kids that have famous parents, this is one of the things in which they are striving to do, is to attain one's own autonomy, one's own individuated selfhood, because of living in the shadows of whoever their parents are, that they have to do something to prove themselves. But at the same time, for all of us men, we have to do the same thing. We need to prove ourselves in one way or another. And so that is number 13. Number 14 is from Douglas Wilson, and it reads, "If boys don't learn, men won't know." And I love that quote. Love that quote. Why? If boys don't learn, men won't know. And it has to do with one of the things that I've seen, and I've talked about in previous videos, has to do with the sort of state of parenthood in the contemporary period, and how fathers, they want to be like the friends to their children. They want to befriend their kids. They have a 5-year-old kid who's misbehaving poorly, and they want to talk to them and give them like a reasoned discussion, as if this is somehow their choice if they have in things. That wasn't the case in which I grew up. That's not the case. I think many more masculine individuals do grow up. Again, you can find your masculinity in various different forms. Many people didn't have fathers, and still more of a man than I am in various regards. So that's not necessarily it. But boys need to learn so men know, and boys need to learn from their fathers. And so fathers set the tone for the generations of masculinity, right? So again, we can see the downfall of the boomer, and we can see then the fall of America post 1950s, in relation to the qualities, to all this different stuff. And so being more of a disciplinarian, being more of a stoic father figure, I think, is what our children need more than ever. We need more traditional men to be fathers, to be great fathers, but to have that sort of stoic quality where you're always pushing your child a little further. I was even speaking with my priest about being thankful that my father was always pushing me to be better. That sort of yearning that you never, that you never quite got it. That your father's always pushing you to be better. You can do better. You can do more. Not that they're not proud of you. They are proud of you, but you can always improve. And the fact that I grew up with that sort of value set instilled in me, I'm so thankful, because now I have that, and that drives my own success. That drives my own life. And to give that to another child, to my children, is something that I want to do. And so, I love this quote. If boys don't learn, men won't know. And so then that leads to number 15, next to last, which says, be firm, be virile, be a man, and then be a saint. And so I think this should be the role for many of us. And when I look at some of the comments and people I've interacted with online into orthodoxy, I've seen a lot of emasculated young men who are scared of women and are really anxious to get into a monastery. Like they think they want to be a monk, this or that. Maybe they are to be a monk. Maybe that is their providential journey. I think what would be better is to follow the words of Saint Jose Maria Escriva, and that is be firm, be virile, be a man, and then be a saint. Find one's adult masculinity, and then maybe you are to be a monk. Maybe that's exactly what your purpose is. But I've noticed that it seemed like the fear of the sort of coming worldly responsibilities of actually being a man and a family man drive some more neotenous individuals to thinking that they should be a monk or something like that, or a voluntary celibate. I love this quote, and this is next to last. So all this being said, be firm, be virile, be a man, and then be a saint leads to the last image that I wanted to share, and that is this right here. And this is the role of every man, right? All that discipline, all that self-work, the physical fitness, the way you dress, the way you interact, the truth that you speak to the world, the conviction of your language, the articulate nature of your thoughts is all to fight evil. And that is the eternal battle you and I and all of us have been called for. And to engage in that is to engage in the eternal masculine journey, the internal masculine battle to protect and provide. And we then need to recognize who we are up against and who we are fighting. And this is who we all should embody. Look at the masculine nature of his physique. That's not a soy boy. Doesn't mean you need to be a bodybuilder. Doesn't mean you have to have the exact same musculature in your back as this man. But it's all trying to symbolize the direction of this stuff. And that if strong men aren't there to fight off evil, evil wins. Evil wins. And so we have to keep that in mind, that within our Orthodox Christian theology, God and Satan are not equals. There is not an eternal dualism. The way in which Satan, or the evil one, gets at God is not that he can stand face to face with him, because they're not on par. It's that he can get through God through humanity, by deceiving humanity, by corrupting humanity. That is how he points a finger in the eye of God. And so it is on us to battle the evil one, both of which are created. And it is upon the men to do that work for the society, for the collective. All of us individually, male, female, doesn't matter. We're all fighting the evil one individually. But as a collective, this is the real role of the man. And so we need more men to do exactly this. And so that sums up my conversation on the return of the Christian gentleman.